let's go to page 163 and let's do number 3. Number 3, you have y equal to cosine of x plus pi over 2, and you want to go from negative pi over 2 to positive 3 pi over 2. So first you have to get all the information you need for the graphing. So a equal to 1, so that's a. B equal to 1, that's a b. And c equal to pi over 2. So that's your a, b, c. And from here you also get k equal to 0. Then from the b you need to get period equal to 2 pi over b. So period equal to 2 pi. And for cosine you want to get a quarter point. So q equal to 1/4 of that. So 2 pi over 4. So q equal to pi over 2. Then from c you have to get the shift. So s equal to negative c over b. So equal to negative pi over 2 over b is 1. So s equal to negative pi over 2. So now, right now they have common denominator, so that's good. Now if they're not the same, you try to make into common denominator. Okay, so from here you're going to start to put graphing. So when you do graphing, first you want to do is go and locate your axes. So normally cosine starts right over here on the top. So your starting point is the vertical and horizontal shifts. So normally that's where your origin is. Okay, and this value would be the shift. So right now, because the shift is negative pi over 2, so that means this is not 0 anymore. This is negative pi over 2. Okay? And then your quarter wave is pi over 2. So every division is pi over 2. So from here you go over here. So this would be 0 pi over 2. So you want to use a pencil to do a few of these. By doing that, you can see that the 0 is over here. And that's where your axes would be. Okay? So that's your axes. So again, start with your original axis and label your shift over here. Then from here use the quarter wave to label a few numbers to find out where the 0 is. So once you do that, you can erase this over here. Okay, erase that. So that's your this is your y-axis. And you're going to do the same thing for the k. K is for up and down. So over here is a 0, and it's already good, right? Because that's where the axis is already. So you don't have to go up and down for these. So once you do that, now you're going to start to label to match the boundary. Okay. So from here, you're going to get the 0, pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, and that's it. And you have to go backward to negative pi over 2, so you go over here, negative pi over 2, and that's it. Then you have to don't forget your amplitude. So over here, you mark right over here, and so the a is 1. So you put 1 over here, and you label that, and this is your negative 1 over here. Okay. And you can erase whatever things that you don't need. Okay. And so that's it for number 3. So there's a shift. And notice by shifting, when you're shifting the cosine, the certain amount, it becomes like, in this case, like a negative sign, right? Okay, so let's go to number 4. Number 4, you have y equal to cosine x minus pi over 2. And you want to go from pi over 2 to 5 pi over 2. So you're going to do the same thing with these. So every problem you go through the same process. So a equal to 1, so that's a. B equal to 1, so that's b. C equal to negative pi over 2. Right? So that's a, b, c. And you also get a k equal to 0, there's nothing out here. And period equal to 2 pi over b. And so period equal to 2 pi. And so q equal to, and from here we know that it's going to be pi over 2. Right? And the c is going to be same thing. Now you have to keep track of your negative sign. So shift is equal to negative C over B. Right, so it's negative C over B, negative C over B. And so this becomes positive pi over 2. And again, you want to make sure they have the common denominator. So now let's go and do the graphing. So again, for cosine, normally you start right over here. That's where you start. And the starting point would be the shift. So right now your shift is pi over 2. And your quarter wave is pi over 2. So that means this is 2 pi over 2. And you go backward, this will give you the 0. And that's where your axis will be. Okay. So you draw that. And that's where your y-axis will be. Then after that, you can erase your temporary axis. And after that, start to label everything. And you want to go from pi over 2 to 5 pi over 2. Okay. So here would be a pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, and then 5 pi over 2. And your amplitude, the amplitude would be, the A is 1, so this would be a 1. And this would be a negative 1. Okay. So this is number 4. Okay, let's go to number 5. You have y equal to sine of x minus pi over 4, and you want to go from negative pi to 2 pi. Let's get all the information. So a equal to 1, so that's a. B equal to 1, that's b. C equal to negative pi over 4, so again that's a, b, c. K equal to 0. Period equal to 2 pi over b, so period equal to 2 pi. So quarter wave equal to, again from here, we know that it's going to be pi over 2. Okay. Now if you don't have this, then you have to work it through, right? And then so the shift is negative c, so it's negative c over b, so negative c over b. So make sure you keep track of your negative signs. So s equal to pi over 4. Now notice they are not the same, right? So you need to make into common denominator. So you're going to make a q equal to 2 pi over 4. So that you have common denominator. Okay. So now let's go and do the graphing. So for number 5, again, use your pencil. So this is sine. So sine normally starts right about over here. Right? So sine starts over here. And this would be the value. So normally if there's no shift, this would be where you start, right? Now because of the shift, your starting point would be the shift value. So this would be your pi over 4. Okay? And now each of the division is 2 pi over 4. So from here, pi over 4, you go 2 pi over 4, this would become 3 pi over 4. And this would be 5 pi over 4. Now when you go backward, you have to go 2 pi over 4. So this becomes negative pi over 4. Okay? And so here's your pi over 4, here's your negative pi over 4. That means your 0 is going to be right in between here. Okay? So that's where your axis would be. So that's your axis right over here. So after that, you can erase your temporary axis. So it's your pi over 4. Okay, now let's check the boundary. You want to go from negative pi to 2 pi. Okay, so that's your 7 pi over 4. And right, so here's your 9, so it's too much already. So you want to stop right over here. So that's your 8 pi over 4, right over here. Okay, so don't go over here. That's your 9 pi already. Now when you go backward, so here's your 0. So there's negative pi over 4. And you have to go by, see the q is 2 pi over 4, so you have to go every 2 pi over 4, right? So this would be a negative 3 pi over 4, Now when you get over here, it's become negative 5 pi already. So if you get over here, it's going to be too much already. So it'll be halfway in between, right over here. So this would be, and again, if you run out of space, you can label on the top, that's fine. So it'd be negative 4 pi over 4, right over here. Okay, so right over here. Then your amplitude, the A is 1. So here's your 1. And here's your negative 1. So there's your amplitude. Okay? And so that's it for number 5. Now let's go to number 6. You have y is equal to cosine of x plus pi over 4. And you want to go from negative pi to 2 pi. So every problem is exactly the same process. So you're going to go get a equal to 1, that's a. Then b equal to 1, c equal to pi over 4. Right, so that's a, b, c. And you also need to get k equal to 0. And period equal to 2 pi over 1, right, 2 pi over b. So equal to 2 pi. And the q is 1/4 of that, so 2 pi over 4. Right, that's what q means, right? Quarter means 1/4. And I'm going to leave it here for now, okay? Because I don't want to waste time simplifying because I might have to make common denominator later. So I'm going to get this s first before I worry about simplifying. Okay, so s equal to negative c. So keep negative away from that. So negative c over b. So s equal to negative pi over 4. So now notice that I don't waste time simplifying because now you have the same denominator, right? If I were to simplify, then not to use that again. So don't waste your time simplifying in the beginning. Okay, so that's going through the graphing. So for number 6. Okay, so this is a cosine function. So cosine function normally starts right over here. Right, that's where you start. And so that would be the value of the shift. So it's negative pi over 4. So this is negative pi over 4. And your q is 2 pi over 4. So you add 2 pi over 4. So this would be pi over 4. Okay, so again, negative pi plus 2 pi give you positive 1 pi. So by looking at these two values, we can figure out that the axes would be right over here. Okay? And so this is 1. And this is negative 1. And then we can erase the temporary axes. And we can label all the other stuff now. Okay, so negative pi over 4. And this is pi over 4. And here's your 0. Okay, now we look at the range. We look at the boundary, how far we need. Negative pi to 2 pi. So negative 2 pi. So over here, it's going to be negative 3 pi over 4. Because the q is 2 pi over 4. So every division is 2 pi over 4. So negative 1, negative 3. When you get over here, it's going to be negative 5. So it's too much already. So you have to do it right over here. Okay, and this would be a negative 4 pi over 4 right over here. Okay, so this here is too much already. So don't go over here. Okay. Okay, and then you go on this side, you're going to get 3 pi over 4. And over here would be 5 pi over 4. Over here would be 7 pi over 4. Again, if you run out of space, you can alternate to give you enough space. Now, 7 pi over 4, so when you get over here, it's going to be 9 pi over 4. So this is too much already. So it would be right over here. So this would be 8 pi over 4. Right, so 7, 8, 9. So it's 1/4 the way. And double check, make sure you have everything labeled, and that's it for number 6. Okay, let's go to number 7. Okay, number 7, you have y is equal to 4 cosine of pi x plus pi over 4, and you want to go from negative 1 to 3. So in this case, a equal to 4, b equal to pi, c equal to pi over 4. Right? So that's a, b, c. And k equal to 0, period equal to 2 pi over b, so 2 pi over b, so 2 pi over pi, so period equal to 2, and q equal to 2 over 4. Okay, again, I don't want to waste time simplifying right now because I might need to have 4 on the bottom. Okay, the shift is negative C over B. So negative C over B. And now when you have complex fraction, you multiply by common denominator, so you need to multiply by 4. Multiply by 4. So this will cancel out. So it'll be negative pi over 4 pi. And the pi will cancel out, so s equal to negative 1 over 4. And see, you have common denominator, so you're fine. So now we're ready to do graphing. Okay, so I'm going to do it on the back side. So number 7. So start with your original axis. So this is the cosine. So this is the cosine. So cosine start from the very top. And that would be the value of the shift, which is negative 1/4. So this right over here is negative 1 over 4. And the Q is 2 over 4. So that means every division is 2 over 4. So negative 1 plus 2 will give you positive 1. So this is 1/4. And this would be 3 over 4, 5 over 4, and so forth. And the purpose of this is so that you can figure out your y-axis. And so here's your 1/4 and negative 1/4. So your axis is going to be right over here. Okay? So after that, you can go and erase this temporary mark. And you can get the amplitude. So A is 4. Right? A is 4. So go and put a 4 over here. And this is negative 4. And the boundary, you want to go from negative 1 to 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and label this. So this is 1 over 4, 3 over 4, 5 over 4, 7 over 4, 9 over 4, 11 over 4. Now, when you get over here, it's 13, that's too much already. So you want to stop right over here. And that would be your 12 over 4, which is the 3. Then you have to go backward to negative 1. So here's your negative 1 over 4, negative 3 over 4. When you get over here, it's too much already. Right? Over here, it's going to be negative 5 over 4. So you have to stop right over here. So this will give you negative 4 over 4. Okay. And so double check, make sure you have everything labeled, and that's it. Okay, let's go to number 8. Yeah, y is equal to 2 sine pi x minus pi over 2. And you want to go from negative 2 to 2. Okay. So let's go and get all the information together. So yeah, a is equal to 2. B equal to pi. So that's your A, B, C. C equal to negative pi over 2. So in this case, K equal to 0. Period equal to 2 pi over B. So period equal to 2. And quarter wave is 1/4, that will be 2 over 4. Again, don't waste time simplifying right now. And the shift equal to negative, so negative C over B. So negative C over B. So watch out your negative signs. And to simplify, you need to multiply by common denominator. And so negative become positive. The 2 and 2 cancel out. So you end up with pi over 2 pi. So S equal to 1 over 2. So now we can go and simplify. So then make into common denominator, so it's easier to figure out your graph. Okay, so let's go and do the graphing. So this is a sine function. So sine graph starts right over here. That's normally where you start. And so that would be the value of the shift, which is 1/2. So this is 1/2. And every division is 1/2. So this would be 2 over 2, 3 over 2. And you go backward, here will be your 0. Okay? And so that's where the axis would be. So draw your axes, and then we can erase this temporary axes. Then after that, you go and get your amplitude. So this is y-axis, and a equal to 2, so this is 2, and this is -2. And now let's watch your boundary from -2 to 2. So here's your 0, 1/2, 2/2, 3/2, 4/2. And you go this way, -1/2, -2/2, -3/2, -4/2. Okay, and erase any pencil marks. Okay, and that's it for number 8. Okay, let's go to number 9. Number 9, you have y is equal to -2 cosine of 2x plus pi. And you want to go from -pi to 3 pi. So a is equal to 2. Now don't put negative in the a. Okay, a is absolute value. So this will tell you how much you go up and down. b equal to 2, c equal to pi. So k equal to 0. Period equal to 2 pi over b. So period equal to pi. So q equal to pi over 4. And the shift equal to -c over b. And notice they are not the same denominator. So let's go and make into common denominator. So s equal to -2 pi over 4. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do the graphing. So for number 9, this is a cosine function. So this is your cosine function. Normally you start off here, but that's a negative. Okay, so notice a negative cosine. So that means you want to start from the bottom. And I want to do it on here instead of here because I look at the boundary. You need to have a 3 pi. So if you do it, if you go over here, you might run out of space. So I'm going to start on this bottom over here. Okay, so that's where it's going to start. So this one you have to do it twice. So here's your original. Now because it's negative, you have to flip upside down. And this will be your starting value of -2 pi over 4. Okay. And your quarter wave is pi over 4, so you have to go every quarter. So this would be -1 pi over 4. Here should be 0 and pi over 4. Right, that's what q is. And this would be 2 pi over 4. And notice that the negative and the shift make it go back to original. Okay, so it kind of negate that. So the negative and the, in this case, the negative and the shift kind of negate each other. So you end up like a very, very original. Okay, so after you found the axes, you can erase these axes over here, and you can do all the labeling. So a equal to 2, so this would be a 2. You can use your ruler so you can get the correct location of that hash mark, -2, and so here will be a 0. And I'm going to erase all this. So this is pi over 4, 2 pi over 4. 3 pi over 4, and this would be -pi over 4, -2 pi over 4, and you have to go all the way to -pi. Okay, so -3 pi over 4, -4 pi over 4, okay, and on this side 3, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 4/4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Kind of run out of space. Okay, so we should start right over here. That's okay. So that's good enough. Okay, so that's that for number 9. Okay, let's go to number 10. Okay, number 10, you have y is equal to negative 3 sine of 4x minus pi, and you want to go from negative pi to pi. So a equal to 3, b equal to 4, so that's a, b, c equal to negative pi. Again, don't including negative in your a, and you got k equal to 0, and period, p equal to 2 pi over b, so period equal to pi over 2. Right. And q is 1/4 wave, so times by 1 over 4. So if you multiply by 1 over 4, you get pi over 8. Okay, now let's go and figure out the shift. So s equal to negative c. So you get negative c over b. So s equal to pi over 4. Again, they are not the same, so you make into common denominator. Okay, make into common denominator so you can do the graphing. Okay, let's go to number 10. Okay, so this is a sine function. So normally sine function starts this way. Now because of the negative, you have to flip upside down, so instead of going up, you have to go down. Okay, so therefore this would be like right over here. Okay, and that would be the value of the shift. So s equal to 2 pi over 8. So this is 2 pi over 8. And you have to go every pi over 8 for your quarter measurement. So this would be 3 pi over 8, 4 pi over 8. And when you go backward, this would be negative 1. This would be positive 1 pi over 8. And this would be a 0 and negative pi over 8. So by doing this, we can locate the axes where the axis is supposed to be. Okay, so that's the y, and we can erase all these and continue to do all the labeling. So the a is 3, so this would be a 3, and this would be a negative 3. So again, you can see in this case, the negative and the shift kind of negate each other, so it becomes back to the original graphing. Okay, so we need to go and get from 0 to, okay, negative pi to pi. Okay, negative pi to pi, so this would be pi over 8, 2 pi over 8, 3 pi over 8, 4 pi over 8, 5 pi over 8, 6 pi over 8, 7 pi over 8, 8 pi over 8. And you have to go backward to the negative pi. So it would be negative pi over 8, negative 2 pi over 8, negative 3 pi over 8, negative 4 pi over 8. Now if you run out of space, if you get too bunched up, it's okay to go up and down. Negative 5 pi over 8, negative 6 pi over 8, negative 7 pi over 8, negative 8 pi over 8. Okay, so this would be graph for number, this would be the x. Okay. And so this is it for number 10.